Let me ask you a question. Does a video game need to be fun? You might respond, yeah, of course. Why would you play a video game that's not fun? That is a fair point. If you're not having fun, why keep playing? You probably have played a game you didn't consider fun on purpose. The tedious grind to get a coveted item or level. The uncomfortable dread of horror. The drive to complete an absurd and difficult challenge. Doing these activities in and of itself isn't fun, but you'd usually derive some sort of pleasure or sense of accomplishment once you've completed them. In essence, while the game isn't fun, you still get some entertainment, satisfaction, or reward from playing the game. But how willing are you to go for that feeling? This video is about a game that isn't fun. This video is about HeatStroke, the most physically and mentally painful video game I have ever beaten. HeatStroke is a game developed by Talia Mayer, Matt Garnett, and Braden Banning. Originally for a game jam with a full release on Steam sometime later. The game description is very cut and dry. Quote, HeatStroke is barely a game and could only really be enjoyed by masochists, tasking you to transcribe an entire short story while driving down a seemingly endless desert road, unquote. Upon booting up the game, you are given a disclaimer. It warns you that HeatStroke demands you to complete a cruel and unusual task, and that this shouldn't be your first experience of the developer's work. I agree with this sentiment. If you are inclined to check out HeatStroke, I recommend you play some other games by ItstheTalia first. On Steam, there is Brutal Orchestra, a turn-based strategy roguelike with impeccable game design. Clown Meat, which is a currently unreleased precision platformer, like Celeste or Super Meat Boy, with an extensive free demo. And Swallow the Sea and Perfect Vermin, which are free, bite-sized horror experiences. Oh, and if you do play Perfect Vermin and notice it crashes after 1 minute, play the game either with your Wi-Fi turned off or by following the step-by-step fix I've linked in the description, or just get the version on itch.io. There are also a few other games on itch.io by ItstheTalia, but I'm not as familiar with them. Just keep in mind that all the games I've recommended are a bit on the gross side visually. They're nothing too crazy, but still heads up. Now, why exactly does HeatStroke have this disclaimer? Well, let me tell you what the game is about. Upon hitting start, you are placed in a car, driving down a 2-lane road in the middle of a desert. The steering wheel naturally tilts to the right, ever so slightly, and will slowly reset to this position if left unattended. 2 signs fly past, saying, "Write the fucking book and look down." You look down and see in front of you a word processor. The word type written above the screen. You must type out an entire short story from start to finish while driving a car through the desert, constantly readjusting the wheel so you do not veer off the road and crash. There are no checkpoints, and you cannot save your progress. You must complete the game in one sitting. What comes to mind immediately is Desert Bus, a rather infamous minigame from the unreleased Penn & Teller's Smoke and Mirrors, where you drive a bus from Tucson to Las Vegas for 8 hours with no pause function. HeatStroke is just as unforgiving as Desert Bus, but gives the player a few graces. For one, you technically control the amount of playtime needed to beat HeatStroke, as the game ends upon completing the short story, so a faster typist will beat the game quicker. 2, You are given a pause button, but you are given a 15-minute timer that goes down as you stay paused. The main menu button has a description that simply reads, "Your progress is not worth saving." Once the timer runs out, the game will resume whether you want it to or not. Finally, the game has built-in entertainment with the book, and a radio that you can turn on or off. However, as you play, it'll quickly become obvious that these small graces do little to remedy the task at hand. Simply put, typing for long periods is exhausting. Obnoxiously exhausting. Your fingers will grow numb, your wrists will begin to ache. The audio the radio creates is strange and incoherent at times, with the music just feeling off or even becoming garbled noise on the turn of a dime. The game at least features a day-night cycle to spice up the visuals. During the day, you'll pass by cacti, some of which have their branches bent at unusual angles, and strange little blue beings. The sky has a pixely, painterly look and can change to some rather vivid two-tone palettes. At night, the sky is black, and after one in-game day-night cycle, the sky will soon be littered with eyes at night. It also takes a moment for your car's headlights to come on, and as you progress, that moment grows longer and longer till you are consumed by the darkness for a full minute or two each time. These moments are always tense. I would often wait out the whole period, gripping the wheel nervously to ensure I do not veer off the edge of the road. As you play, you will fall into a repetitive routine. Look at the road, recenter the car, type a few lines. Look at the road, recenter the car, type a few lines. You are given some warning if the car is too close to the edge of the road, a ticking sound accompanied by words filling the windshield, before progressing into more rapid clicks and the words obscuring your view like a swarm of locusts. Go too far, and you are sent to the title screen with all your progress lost. The game itself is not hard. What it asks the player to do is not mechanically difficult. It is instead a test of stamina and willpower. A challenge to see if you have the patience to complete an absurd feat. It wears you down like a millstone, a constant grind that will reveal you as either brittle or resilient. Why on earth would you do this to yourself? Let me tell you about my personal experience with HeatStroke. I first discovered the game after looking at the games listed on Steam by ItstheTalia in October. I was first introduced to her work through the demo for Clown Meat, having seen Manly Badass Hero play it, and I quickly got hooked on Brutal Orchestra sometime after. I wanted to stream some spooky games on Discord to some friends during October, and thought Perfect Vermin and Swallow the Sea would be a perfect fit. But I noticed HeatStroke 2. On a whim, I paid for it and started to play, having read the warnings on the store page and the disclaimer. The sheer totality of what the game had in store didn't dawn on me till I had finished typing the first chapter, where a small 1 of 9 greeted me like a bad omen. It was early in the evening, and I was procrastinating more important things to do. I figured I could quit and start a few hours later. This next play session started at 9:40 p.m. and stopped at 1 a.m. I had gotten midway through Chapter 5 when I realized I wouldn't be finishing this tonight. This was partially due to my method of play, where I would wait until the car was the furthest left it could be before I started typing again, wasting time waiting for the car to be in the right position that could have been spent typing. If I wanted to see this thing through, I would need to dedicate time to it and adjust my strategy. This wouldn't be till December, unfortunately. When I did get the time, I set a date. I asked some friends if they wanted to join a voice call where I played the game. I said that you didn't have to stay the whole time, but company was appreciated. Quite a few showed up as it was an excuse to hang out and goof around. I started this next run at around 5:40 p.m., and I made great progress. I blew through the first chapter and was well into the second by the time someone joined in. However, this progress was soon dashed about 1/4 into Chapter 3 as I crashed the car. The reason being, I had put on music from the Hilux 2 OST and gotten engrossed in it. Too invested in my typing to look up and asking why I heard what sounded like heavy rain in a Canadian mid-December. It was an hour of progress lost, but I knew what I had typed. The climb back wasn't as bad, and soon I was back on track. I reached Chapter 5, where I had left off on my furthest attempt. More people began to show up to keep me company as I endured this grueling task. I took note of how the chapters seemed to be getting shorter, and how the game seemed to be easing up as I approached 9 out of 9. But I had been spoiled about the game's devious trick during my preparations. The game lies to you. There are not 9 chapters, but 13. I knew what was coming and soon realized the gravity and horror of the situation as the chapters past 9 kept getting longer and longer. Chapter 12 scared me. It was at night in the game. The radio cut all noise. Everything lined up for me to think the game had crashed. I felt my heart skip a beat. Another cruel trick of the game, though, as I soon realized it was merely the advertised dynamic radio. My audience of friends and I were exhausted at this point, with everyone reminding me to stay focused with the end so near. I reached the 13th chapter. The radio returned to life, but with a dull, repetitive track. 2 men. One final test before the finish. I was absorbed into the story at this point. Every line felt like it could be the one. The final line to finish it all. So much anticipation, panic, fear, and exhaustion coursed through my veins. The story concluded with several lines of repetition. I was narrating them out loud to everyone. Each word, each letter, had the impact of 1,000. And then, it happened! The final line! The credits rolled. I felt extremely relieved and proud that I completed this self-imposed challenge. A wave of emotion hit me like a truck as chatter erupted in the voice call. I had done it, and all I had to show for it was a blue air freshener, screenshot, and an achievement. Shortly afterwards, the aching pain in my wrist decided that it was gonna stay a while. I never had been taught proper posture for using a keyboard, so that combined with typing repetitively for 6 to 7 hours likely led to me having pretty bad wrist pain for the next 2 weeks. I'll let you know that as of writing this, my wrists are back to normal, thankfully. But this is the first time a video game has ever left a physical toll on my body, even if it was short-lived. Now that I've narrated my experience, there are a few other things I want to talk about. Part of me does want to talk about the story within HeatStroke itself, but due to the nature of the game, I kinda can't. I think it would go against the wishes of the developers to have someone experience the story outside of its intended medium, so I will not give a full summary or analysis here. However, I will leave an unlisted video in the description giving my brief thoughts on the story for those who have played HeatStroke. You can watch it if you haven't played the game, but it'll make little sense to you if you do. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the general response I've seen to the game, as I've found some more insight on the creation of the game from reading the developers' responses to Steam reviews. The general response to the game is very positive, with only a few negative reviews as standouts. These are mostly people frustrated by the player experience for obvious reasons. The main developer, Talia, mentions in a comment how HeatStroke is intended to capture a part of the emotional palette that is subtle and strange, such that a traditional game wouldn't be able to elicit such a reaction, drawing a comparison to the paintings of Mark Rothko, Andre Serrano's bodily fluid photography, and Felix Torres' untitled Candy Pile. These pieces can initially make someone ask, why is this art? Because they fundamentally challenge what art can even be. As an example, Rothko's paintings try to elicit specific emotions with the color choice and the sheer size of the canvas overwhelming a viewer's vision. Which sounds weird, and I personally have never seen a Rothko in person, but there are accounts of people becoming emotionally distressed or at peace while viewing these Goliaths of color in person. HeatStroke, similarly, is trying to challenge what a game can even be. It fits a bare-bones definition of a video game, a program that a user runs, following directions and inputting sequences till completion. But it's almost uncanny in its execution in that its main goal is to exhaust the player physically and mentally. There is some entertainment, but I would hardly call it fun, personally. I think a funny personal anecdote I have is that when I described HeatStroke to a friend during the process of making this script, he drew comparisons to 5D chess with multiversal time travel, and how me describing HeatStroke filled him with the same horror as 5D chess. The difference being, 5D chess's horror comes from its complexity and incomprehensibility. HeatStroke's horror comes from it being completely simple, comprehensive, and yet very cruel in game design. A personal comparison that I would make is to Leland Kirby's Everywhere at the End of Time, under the pseudonym of the Caretaker. It's another piece of media that's unconventional for its medium. A 6-hour album of music that degrades into noise as it progresses, acting as a metaphorical expression of dementia and its stages. Both HeatStroke and Everywhere at the End of Time break conventions of their mediums to elicit specific and powerful emotions in the person experiencing both works that you wouldn't experience from conventionally consumer-friendly media. These works are important because sometimes it is necessary to experience media that isn't enjoyable. It makes you question and think about what you enjoy in the media that you like when you're presented with something so opposite. A light shines brightly when contrasted with darkness. It can make you more empathetic as well. In HeatStroke's case, while most writers don't literally write a story while driving a car endlessly through the desert, I'm sure that the exhaustion and fatigue the game creates in the player is relatable. Every word a difficult choice as you try to get your ideas out into the world, or struggling to force yourself to create when you have writer's block. The plight of the writer becomes more tangible to the player, more relatable. So while it is great to see and play games that are fun, I think there should be games like HeatStroke that push you outside your comfort zone. It won't be for everyone, but that's okay. Final thoughts. Would I recommend this experience to someone? Most people no. While HeatStroke proves my thesis that a video game need not to be fun in order to get some sort of positive emotion out of it, this type of experience is incredibly niche and not intended for a general audience. You need to mentally prepare yourself for it, setting yourself dedicated time where you have no obligations in order to complete a long, repetitive task. But if you want to go for it, then go for it. It's generously only a few bucks on Steam, enough to buy a cheap coffee. Maybe you stream it to some friends in Discord like I did. Have some company to keep you sane. Oh, and if somehow the devs behind this game are watching this video, while I think that what I played wasn't a fun experience, I hope I was able to convey that I still greatly respect your work. Thank you. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to Ad Noctem Gaming, one of the very few other people I've seen make a video on this game. Go check out his video in the description if you'd like to hear someone else's thoughts on this game. With that, I think that's everything I have to say. Thank you for listening to me ramble. Have a good rest of your day.